Welcome back to another tactical fly fisher video. We're on one of my favorite little pieces of water here. We've been catching some fish this morning, and hopefully we're going to do some more after this. But I thought I'd take a break to tell you a little bit about leaders today. So I get asked daily at this point from multiple people about the different leaders that I'm using, especially in a lot of our videos, because apparently it's not very clear. So I'm going to make it abundantly clear in this video so that hopefully it makes sense. And most of this video is going to be made up of the leader formula clip from our film Adaptive Fly Fishing. If you'd like to purchase that film, I've put the links in the product description below, and you can see me using all these leaders in lots of different types of water in that film. Okay, so what am I using? Really, when it boils down to it, if you can see fly line out my rod tip, I'm probably not using a Euro nymphing leader. If I'm forming loops, and I'm fishing dry flies, especially a single dry fly, I'm using what I consider a competition style dry fly leader most of the time. So it's a hand-built leader that I have the formula coming up here in a second, that has a very thin butt section on it compared to most of the butt sections you'd find on a store-bought tapered leader. And that decreases the power so that I have a more delicate put down on the water. And the sheer length of it makes it so that I have a very delicate leader that distances my fly line from my fly a lot, and I don't spook that fish, or I don't spook fish that way as much, and I also just get better drifts on the water in complex currents. So that Spanish or competition style dry fly leader is what I would be using for most of my dry fly work. I haven't been able to figure out a way to cast a dry fly on a micro Euro nymphing leader, so that tapered dry fly leader is what I'm typically using. For instance, in the video we did, the January midges video just a few weeks ago, a lot of people thought I was fishing a Euro leader on the single dry fly section that we did, and I was not. I was fishing the dry fly leader you're going to see here in a second. Okay, so on all other work, if I'm fishing a dry dropper, if I'm fishing a streamer, if I'm nymphing with 1 or 2 nymphs, anything that's under a radius of about 25 feet away, maybe even 30 feet, I'm probably using a Euro nymphing leader, and more specifically a micro nymphing leader. So a very thin, micro thin leader, and you'll see that formula again here in a second. Now, I use that leader for lots of reasons, mainly because it reduces sag a ton, and it gives me a lot better sensitivity, and I can fish a lot further away without my flies moving back towards me because that leader isn't sagging and pulling them to me. And I can do that with less weight as well. So that's how I'm able to fish a lot of stuff like this behind me with only about a 2 millimeter fly, or even a single 2.3 or 2.5 millimeter bead. So there's a lot of good things about that, but it's also really hard to cast. So if you're new to Euro nymphing or you haven't put a lot of time in to learn how to cast, don't jump into that. Don't jump into using that leader. Use some of the formulas that we've described before in modern nymphing, or that are in my book, Tactical Fly Fishing. This micro European nymphing leader is an advanced level leader if you're an advanced level Euro nympher. Now, with that Euro leader though, I am able to nymph with it with 1 or 2 nymphs. I'm able to dry dropper fish with it. So if you hear me talking about dry dropper fishing, most of the time that's probably what I'm using, unless it's at distance. So there again, if it's beyond 25 or 30 feet, I might be using that dry fly leader that I just re-rigged to make it into a dry dropper rig. But anything under that 25-foot radius, the micro leader is what I'm using for that dry dropper. Because it's then easy to take that tag that I have my second nymph on normally and clip it off, put a dry fly there, and now I have a dry dropper rig. And if you need to, you can add some tippet, but it's a real easy switch back and forth. And then if I'm fishing streamers, a lot of times I'm going to be using that micro nymphing leader for any water like this. The only time I switch to the streamer leader that you're going to be seeing in this next clip is if I'm fishing a large river where I need to cover a lot of ground, and usually a big long glide or big long run that I need to bomb cast, swing, and strip back. But for smaller water and shorter distance work, I usually just fish a Euro leader and jig my flies for my action, like I've talked about in the video and in my book. So hopefully that clears things up for you. And if you're ever wondering what leader I'm fishing in any of our past or future videos, just watch my rod. If you see a fly line coming out of it, making that loop, I'm probably fishing a dry fly leader. And if you don't, I'm probably fishing the micro thin leader. When considering a dry fly leader to fish, think of having a leader that gives you the most delicate and drag-free presentation possible. Typically, this occurs with leaders that are very long, pretty much as long as you can cast them effectively. My dry fly leader is a variation based on a formula I learned from some Spanish friends of mine. It starts with 28 inches of 20-pound Maxima chameleon, followed by 24 inches of 15-pound Maxima chameleon, followed by 20 inches of 10-pound Maxima chameleon, to 16 inches of 8-pound Maxima chameleon, 12 inches of 5-pound Maxima chameleon, to 12 inches of 4-pound Maxima chameleon. To the end of the chameleon, I either attach a very small micro tippet ring or tie a micro perfection loop. To that ring or loop, I add tippet until the leader is twice the length of my rod, and you can make that tippet 5x, 6x, or 7x, or a combination of those to suit your preferences. If you can't cast the leader effectively when it's twice the length of your rod, gradually scale back the tippet until you feel like you can control your casts with that leader. Another way to achieve a similar presentation is to take a 12 to 13 foot delicate presentation type tapered leader and then add tippet until it's as long as you can feel comfortable casting it. By fishing a long, delicate tapered leader, you can achieve the best drag-free drift possible while spacing the impact of your fly and your fly line on the water, which leads to less spooked fish. As we mentioned in Modern Nymphing Elevated, thinner European nymphing leaders provide better contact because of less sag, which allows you to fish further away with better strike detection. However, if you're used to casting one of the thicker formulas that we shared in Modern Nymphing, it may be really difficult for you to learn to cast a micro-thin formula if you jump straight to it. So we recommend progressively going from thicker to thinner Euro nymphing leader formulas and mastering the casting with each of those formulas before you move on. In this video, we've mainly been using a micro-thin European nymphing leader. My formula, during most of the filming, used 12 to 13 feet of 3x or 4x indicator mono to a tippet ring. Then I created either a 1 or a 2 nymph rig with enough tippet to make the leader twice the length of my rod. To place a secondary sighter, which I can move based on the depth and speed of the water I'm fishing, I use neon wax, which I can paint on and off as needed to adjust for different depths. Typically, I put the sighter 1.5 to 2 times the depth of the water from the sighter to the point fly. The wax is easy to remove with a Kleenex or cloth on the water and can be added or subtracted as needed. By fishing a micro-thin leader, you reduce sag, which leads to a greater distance that you can fish with a better drift and with maximum strike detection.
When swinging and retrieving streamers, it is most effective to use a leader that allows flies to sink quickly. While using a strong tippet is essential to avoid break-offs, it isn't necessary to have a long butt section. Shortening the leader butt will get flies to depth and improve strike detection. The leader formula I prefer is 24 inches of 20-pound fluorocarbon, blood knotted to 18 inches of 15-pound fluorocarbon, and then terminating in a 2mm tippet ring. The tippet ring allows leader materials of drastically different diameters to have a strong connection. I then uni-knot fluorocarbon tippet to the tippet ring. If fishing a single streamer, add 4 feet of 1x to 3x tippet. If fishing a 2-fly setup, which is my preferred setup, add 3 feet of tippet to the ring and then triple surgeon's knot an additional 4 feet of tippet. Tie the top fly to the dropper tag remaining from the triple surgeon's knot and add the point fly to the terminal end of the tippet. By fishing a short leader on a sink tip line, We can still easily turn over 2 streamers while getting our flies quickly to depth and improving strike detection.
Thanks for watching this tactical fly fisher video. We really appreciate it. If you got some value out of it, I really would appreciate it if you'd hit that like. The more interaction we get, the more comments we get, the more subscribers we get, the more people that see our videos, and the more I'm able to get brought to you. Also, if you want to purchase adaptive fly fishing, the video that the main leader formula clip just came out of, I've put links in the product description below, where you can buy it in either a DVD or a Vimeo streaming or digital download format. And you can see me use those leaders in lots of different water types along with Lancegan, and hopefully it'll help you out on the water and help you learn how to fish with these styles of leaders a little bit better. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.